Perfect. It's a little bit louder in here.
Yeah, well,
I call this meeting to order. This is the Finance and Government Operations Committee for the Albuquerque City Council. All councils are present, including Council Tejas joining via Zoom. This is a hybrid meeting where all participants will be in person, video, or audio conference. Members of the public have an opportunity to address the committee if they have signed up for public comment per the rules published on the agenda and on our website last Friday. We will call for the speakers when we get to the individual item that they had signed up for. Public comment ground rules. Comments will be addressed to the committee members only. Each participant has 2 minutes to present, and any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the meeting. As you guys can see, we have adjusted due to technical difficulty down in the chambers to kind of old school means of being up here in the council chambers. So let's do retro today. That being said, we'll move on to agenda item A, EC 551. This is a lease agreement between the city of Albuquerque and the ProView Networks, a nonprofit organization. I move for approval. Seconded by Councilor Hawker and Councilor Lewis. This bill proposes approval of a lease agreement between the city of Albuquerque and the ProView Networks, a New Mexico nonprofit organization, for the space at Studio 519, which is located at 519 Central Avenue Northwest. Approval of this bill will allow for ProView Networks to lease the space within the city-owned Studio 519 facility to support the production of the local origination and educational programs for the city's public, educational, and governmental access channels. ProView Networks currently provides a year-round coverage of New Mexico high school sports and produces programming for PEG Access, Local Origination Channel 26. The purpose of the lease term runs through June 30th of 2028. Options to extend subject to the city approval and tenant compliances. The rent will be provided in in-kind services rather than cash payments. This is a new lease agreement requiring that the city council approves this, and the preliminary affects the Department of Arts and Culture, including the Caso Media. Councilors, any questions or comments on this? None. My understanding, you did break down the cost of it, and what, just for the public's information of what commercial property goes for downtown based on what they're doing, what local per square foot in the commercial rental space, and it all kind of coincides to make sure that, well, for the lack of better terms, no favorization or anything like that going on within this leasing agreement. So that being said, go to the vote. Madam Clerk.
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mateus? Mateus?
Councilor Tejas, can you hear us?
I can barely hear you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. How would, for EC 551, how would you like to vote?
Approved.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Garrett, would you make sure that obviously the video's over there and I'm trying to stay here. If she raises her hand, stuff like that, just kind of international sign of distress at me. Okay, gotcha. Moving on to agenda item B, OC1, the Public Boards, Commissions and Committees Advisory Task Force 2025 Findings and Recommendations Report. Move for a receipt be noted. Second.
So this 26-1.
This is OC1. 26-1, yeah. Second by Councilor Lewis. This is another communication summit, this other communication submits the Public Boards and Commissions and Committees Advisory Task Force for 2025 Findings and Recommendations Report to the City Council. This task force was convened by the Office of the City Clerk to conduct an annual review of the city-established boards, commissions, and committees. The report summarizes the task force membership, methodologies, findings, and recommendations for a subset of the city's entities reviewing during the 2025 cycle. The report evaluates the effectiveness, structure, and continued relevance, thank you, sir, of 25 boards, commissions, and committees, and provides recommendations ranging from no action, restructuring, merge, increase oversight, or dissolution of the task force. The task force also submits a draft cleanup ordinance for the city council's consideration. Councilors, any questions or comments? Reference item B.
Mr. Chair,
Councilor Petty.
just real quick, so there's a recommendation for a resolution to address some of these things. Who's the staff person that worked on this? I'm just interested because it actually recommends for us to get rid of some of our boards and commissions and then to restructure or merge others. So if you could just kind of give me an upshot. I don't need, a lot of detail, but if you just give me the upshot on that.
Council Chair Champagne, Councilor Pena. Yes, there are some boards, you can see in the write-up that I did list the chart of all the boards that we went through. We went through 25 boards. There are some that we do recommend. None of these are official.
Right.
We're just giving recommendations to the council. With our recommendations of dissolving the boards or committees, just on what we found from the questionnaires that we did send out to the department directors that oversee them, and then of course the chairs of the actual committees or boards.
Awesome. Mr. Chair, so there's actually, you said something about a draft resolution, or the chair just wrote something that you had a recommended draft resolution?
There is a couple of drafts in there that are recommendations to city council of putting sunset clauses on any new boards that are being up for city council's approval. This way, any new boards that come in, we could put a sunset on them to where they would distinguish after a certain amount of time, as in the 2020 census is an example of this. That board is still active right now, and of course, we won't have a census board until 2030. So also for we do have one to review a little bit deeply, more deep, and there's also a draft ordinance in there to amend it to say just to restructure the ordinance for that board to state that 3 city employees need to be on that board that are either engineers or architects to make that selection for that board to run more smooth.
Okay. Mr. Chair, so I'm interested in, because there are some boards, commissions that we have that I'm interested in, like, are they meeting the goals of their, how they were established? So maybe we can set up a meeting after, but thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilors, any other questions, comments? Seeing none,
Councilor Baca,
Yes.
Councilor Lewis,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Tellez,
Yes.
Councilor Champagne.
yes.
This is on a 5-0 vote.
We'll move on to agenda item C, Councilor Baca for council report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. O-104, amending ROA 1994, section 9-2-2-4. B of the Humane and Ethical Animal Rules and Treatment related to housing and restraint standards. I move to pass.
For do pass, for a second. A second. Please.
Brief summary. This ordinance amends Albuquerque's humane and ethical animal rules to allow licensed veterinarians to recommend housing standards for cats and dogs that differ from the ordinance's minimum space requirements when warranted by an animal's specific health needs and overall well-being. The change applies to non-residential settings such as boarding kennels, guard dog sites, animal shelters, including the Albuquerque Animal Care Center and pet stores.
Councilors, any questions?
Mr. Chair, I think we have the director here. I'd just like to you know, hear her opinion about this.
Mr. Chair and President and Councilors, this amendment was basically a result of an internal audit that the department requested for Street Cat Hub. We were finding that they weren't in compliance, but they weren't in compliance because our ordinance wasn't in line with best practices of housing. So we amended it so that some of the exceptions, such as in the vet clinics and with the TNR vets, that it provided more of a safe passage for some of the feral cats, for those animals that were injured, moving them from a smaller kennel where they could be safe into the required 4-foot or 8-foot kennels. It was more about safety of the animals and also safety of the humans interacting with the animals, which predominantly were pets in this ordinance itself. So it puts the onus and also the decision of whether that pet should be moved from a smaller kennel into a larger kennel for safety reasons in the hands of a certified veterinarian.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director. Seeing no other questions or comments, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Counselor Champagne.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Moving on to agenda item D, 0261. Counselor Lewis.
Mr. Chair, 01 is amending the city code of ordinances relating to the preparation of reports, plans, technical documents, and drawings by the City Council Services Department. Move to pass.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I won't read the summary. I think it's pretty detailed. I'm assuming you read it, but everybody's read it, but I don't know if the administration would want to comment on it. This is Council Grout's bill, and it's obviously its first hearing, and the intention is to put it on the full council, but y'all did want to comment on it if you had any comments on it.
No,
Mr.
we
Wade?
just, Chair and Councilor Lewis, I think we just moved to full council for discussion. Director Turner is here to discuss it as well, so.
Director, yeah, I'd be interested in hearing Mr. Chair, Director's thoughts on it, so.
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Chair, Councilor Lewis, thank you for the opportunity to weigh in. In reviewing this, we had a number of questions related to the scope of projects that could be included. We didn't, few things. We don't want to duplicate work. So obviously, if my department is developed, or another department like Parks is developing a project, it's not clear if this would apply to every type of project or just certain ones that are funded with counselor set aside, for example. Also for some of those really technical engineering projects, I think Councilor Lewis knows this, that we in DMD add a lot of value to initial conversations about very technical engineering projects, and when we just want to make sure we're all talking to each other. And so that was just one of the questions we had about this. Also, in terms of building projects, we've learned that having contractors in early on in design helps us make sure we're building to budget. And so that was just another question, if we could make sure that bringing contractors in early to help us would still remain on the table under this proposal. And then also in terms of the obligation to brief the sponsoring counselor, we didn't quite understand if that's for all projects or just projects covered by this. And we do have already a tracker available online that we've worked with council staff on. And so we hope we're answering all the questions that are raised through that process. So I did briefly talk to the sponsor about it this afternoon, and she, I said, look, we have some questions, and she expressed an interest in kind of talking through the questions that we had. So, and I was happy to hear that, obviously. But again, we had clarification questions and I'd like the opportunity to discuss them further.
And Mr. Chair, yeah, I mean, when I read a bill like this, I mean, and I don't know if there's some, I guess, some specific things that have happened that, it sounds like it's trying to solve something, trying to solve a communication issue and things like that, and probably has great intent. But I think as in any bill, there might be some unintended consequences or just things that you guys would need to work out and clarify. So that makes sense. But because it's the Councilor Grout's bill, I think if we just move to full council, I feel like you'll have some sufficient time to
Yes.
speak it through with Councilor Grout and any amendments that we can make between now and then or at that time. And obviously we want it to be something that's helpful to everybody. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Making sure that we get the public up from downstairs. Anybody waiting to change a venue to make sure they're getting corrected up here, correct?
Mr. Chair, we posted signage on the doors downstairs at
Councilors, reference to 26-1, any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Counselor Champagne.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Now move on to agenda item E, which is 026-3. Counselor Baca?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3, amending chapter 2, article 11 of the revised ordinance of Albuquerque, New Mexico, ROA 1994, to add a new section regulating indirect overhead charges to capital funds, establishing an IDOH rate cap, requiring annual reporting and transparency, and aligning eligible uses with capital delivery standards. Mr. Chair, we have talked with several of us, I believe yourself included, have spoken with the administration. There are some changes and amendments we'd like to work with them on. I'd move deferral to the February 9th, 2026.
Second.
And second, and motion is deferred till February 9th. Seconded by both of the councilors. Questions on the motion to defer? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Counselor Champagne.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Move on to agenda item F, 026-5. Counselor Baca again.
Mr. Chair, 5, amending the short-term rental ordinance to add a separation requirement for short-term rental permits. I move a due pass.
Motions for a due pass. Second. Second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Tejas. Counselor Baca.
Thank you. I believe we have some speakers. I'd like to speak after everyone's had their opportunity.
And so too, I don't know which sheet. Can I steal one of those? Good.
Mr. Chair, do we have Carl Vidal here with us to speak, followed by Chris Venegas on Zoom.
Right here. Yes, sir, right there. Thank you.
Evening. Thank you for having me again. Congratulations for all of those that were recently elected. My name is Carl Vidal, and I am one of the board members for the New Mexico Short-Term Rental Association of New Mexico, and one of the largest advocates for short-term rentals in New Mexico in general. I wrote the 2023 Short-Term Rental Economic Impact Study and have appeared in front of the council here numerous times regarding any subject related to short-term rentals. The latest bill looks to put a separation requirement onto short-term rentals. It's a very similar bill that was voted down about a year ago. I pulled the latest data this morning. Currently, there are 2,411 short-term rentals in Albuquerque. which is down about 5%, which means roughly we've lost about 130 short-term rentals year over year, just due to natural conditions of the market. This is not Florida. This is not Phoenix. We do not see short-term rental demand on every single block like we do in some of these major areas where they're retirement communities and people rent them half the year and live there half the year. That's not what happens here in New Mexico. Instead, 65% of our short-term rentals here in Albuquerque are part-time, where they're rented out less than 6 months a year. Only 8% of our short-term rentals are rented out more 330 days a year. The vast majority of our short-term rental owners here in the city are using short-term rentals to help make their mortgage payments, to help pay their bills, and to help keep their homes. Quite the opposite of what we may see in some other markets in the country. But again, Albuquerque is not those markets, and I think that needs to be recognized. This bill itself will do detrimental damage to someone. It's inevitable. There is going to be a person in the future that wants to rent their house because they want to generate some rent to be able to pay their bills. They're going to go register and they're going to find out there's a neighbor near them that already has a short-term rental, and they're going to be excluded from just renting their property. And that's just a travesty. It's not well thought out, and it's not the way we should be doing things in Albuquerque. We need to protect people's equal rights to make money and to be a small business. And I'm asking the council once again to support small businesses, because that's what these are. There are no large businesses here. We're small businesses, and we need you to protect us, just to give us the ability to exist.
Thank you, Mr. Vidal. Just for future reference, that phone alarm was gonna be the 2-minute timer.
Okay, that's all right.
I didn't know either, so I gotta.
Okay. I'm used to the beep.
I know.
No. I did bring for the council the latest reports, if I can put these in for you guys. So,
Yep. Here or there.
Yeah, Bill.
There, up next, we have Chris Venegas, followed by Christopher Tanner.
Good. Am I free to talk?
Please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and councilors. My name is Chris Venegas. I'm the president of the Greater Albuquerque Association for Realtors here and for the Albuquerque area specifically. A lot of those quotes that were given to you were points I was going to make also, is that out of the 2,000 we have here, I mean, you're talking less than 1% of the current market's housing. So the amount of impact we'd have to try to create more housing would be really minimal in that sense. Direct real-time example I have too, where it would affect things negatively, is I own a condo by downtown, and for travel nurses I have it as a short-term rental, and my concern is for travel nurses too, is that would eliminate a lot of options for them as to what they can use for availability when they do come into town, which could also affect affordability for them too. So for an immediate impact group, I see travel nurses having an issue with this as well. So we are, as far as Realtor Association goes, we are opposed to this and urge you guys to oppose it too.
Next is Christopher Tanner.
Okay, sorry, I'm in my car, so I do apologize for that. But Chair and members of the Finance and Government Operations Committee, thank you for allowing me to speak. I respectfully urge you to oppose Ordinance 02605. It's important to understand who actually owns short-term rentals and how they're used. On average, 91% of short-term rentals in a community are owned by a single person, family, or an LLC as a second home. These are not corporate investors removing housing from the market. These are often local or regional families who use the home themselves throughout the year and offset rising ownership costs by renting it short-term on a limited basis. So multiple independent studies have shown that short-term rentals do not have a meaningful impact on property values or housing prices within a market. However, restricting them can have a very real negative consequence, including reducing tourism spending, loss of larger tax revenue, and financial harm to responsible owners who rely on this income to maintain their properties. It's also important to be clear about what realtors can and cannot control. Realtors do not decide who submits an offer on a home, nor which offer a seller ultimately accepts. Market conditions, supply constraints, and buyer demand, not real estate professionals or short-term rentals, are what drive prices. This ordinance risks targeting the wrong problem. A rigid separation requirement will not meaningfully increase housing supply, but it will limit property rights, discourage compliance, and create enforcement challenges for the city. Albuquerque needs solutions that increase housing supply and address affordability at its root, not policies that restrict a small, largely owner-occupied segment of the housing market. I urge you to oppose O2605. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Chair, our last speaker is not present in Zoom. That does conclude public comment.
Thank you. Back on the bill. O26-5. Councilors, any questions?
Yeah, like my opening.
Councilor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, this is very similar to the bill from last year. We still have a housing crunch here in Albuquerque, housing being the number one issue we have and the root of many of the issues we are dealing with, including our unhoused population. This is STRs, or STOs. It only affects rentals under 29 days, so that does not include our traveling nurses. It is true that this is less than 1% of the housing supply. However, these are all predominantly located in our historic neighborhoods and our neighborhoods of people of color. These are the areas that are being impacted more than other areas in the city. This does not hurt anybody's business. Everyone who already has a permit will keep their permit. There is no change. If you have a casita, you want to rent that out, you can do that also, even if someone is within the distance requirement. Having a distance requirement allows for flexibility. So if someone goes out, another person can come in. Potentially, you'll have people within 300 feet, which is just a block away. That's not very far at all. As Mr. Vidal points out, these very flexible. Some come in, some come out. I think the current number is 607 in the city. Almost all of them within Old Town, downtown, and the university area. But nobody's business will be impacted. Period. That is a fact. So a couple thoughts on that. One, we just heard last week, to be honest, I am open to amendments on this. As Mr. Vidal knows, I approached him, let him know this was coming. So this isn't a surprise. I also mentioned we was open to talking about it. Did not hear from him. Of course, this was the second time because last year I also offered to work with the industry and received zero outreach from that as well. So I just want that on the record that I have continually reached out. And again, today, I'm open to meeting with the industry to discuss how to make this work for everybody. Because it is one of the things that we have to do as counselors is not just help one segment. We have a duty to the entire community, to the entire city. One point that I want to bring up is this past year, at our last council meeting, the lodger's tax is down 8%. We had record numbers at the Balloon Fiesta. Lodger's tax comes from our Airbnbs for sure, and from our hotels. Our hotels were full. I imagine our Airbnbs were full. I do wonder why we still had a loss. Was that unregistered Airbnbs? People hanging out on the couch? People just driving in for the day? I mean, there's multiple thoughts there, but definitely there's an issue. At a minimum, we should be talking about the enforcement capacity of this. And I do have questions for Mr. Varela if he's here today. And so folks know that lodger's tax covers a lot. That's Visit Albuquerque. That's our tourism. That's our chambers of commerce. These numbers are down right now. Mr. Varela, are any of these permittees, do they own more than one Airbnb?
people who have permits?
Yes.
Yes, some of the people with permits have several permits. They have a separate permit for each of their locations.
So there is more than just single families renting out their homes.
Most definitely, yes.
Most definitely. Thank you. What's our current method for enforcement for unregistered Airbnbs?
And our current method for enforcement is rather scanty, frankly. The largest reason or the main reason for coming up with the registration process, and I was there when the law was passed and I helped draft that with a city councilor several years ago. I was in the legal department, was non-payment of lodger's tax. The other was to eliminate the quote unquote party houses, which are being rented to usually people that somebody over age 18 would go rent one. They'd rent it for one of their high school younger siblings, usually your friend, and then walk away. And then that became a disaster for the neighborhood. We, by and large, eliminated the party house problem. And we also then eliminated the failure to pay lodger's tax problem because we negotiated with the marketplace providers, the Airbnbs of the world and the VRBOs, so that they actually, in order to advertise the property and process the payments for that, they collect the taxes and remit that to the city. And so that then disentangled the problem of who's got a permit versus who's paying their lodger's tax. They're all paying their lodger's tax. And so we do not have a whole lot of staff to go after non-life safety problems, such as who has their permit for it. One thing very interesting about this is if this were to go in effect, and this may be positive, and this may be negative, depending on how you look at it, but I presume there would be a race to get your permit. Because if there are two of these folks that happen to be within the unallowable distance, then the first one to get their permit is going to be able to block the other person from getting their permit. That way it would help with enforcement.
Help with enforcement, it also
Yeah.
register folks that are unregistered.
Correct, yes, yes. The program is by and large run through the city treasurer's office. The monitoring for that, for compliance and such, those are through contracts who were through the city treasurer's office. And so there is a little bit of a disconnect between what the planning department does and what the company does that helps the city with its compliance. Different department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my last thing would be, this isn't anecdotal. I used to own a home just down the road from here. That's where my son was born. Next door, we had a home where there were some other kids. Behind us, there was another home with young kids. Nice little neighborhood. I sold it. I didn't look to see who was gonna buy my house. I just didn't want to be a landlord anymore. And it was purchased by a group out of Phoenix, who now run it as an Airbnb. The two other homes that had children in it are now Airbnbs. Neighborhoods do get destroyed really through the Airbnbs. And predominantly are historic neighborhoods with people of color. Now, that's not to make Airbnbs a bad guy. These are small businesses. I understand that 100%. And I 100% want to help our small businesses. And there needs to be a balance. How do we achieve that for everyone?
Councilor Lewis, before I go to you, the last public commenter is finally on, if it's okay with you, Councilor Barber, let them. Okay. And Stephanie Tejas. Councilor Tejas, I'll get to you right after Councilor Lewis.
Okay, we're gonna go back to our last commenter, Shane Dolinsky.
Thank you, counselors. I appreciate just getting a couple minutes of your time. And I appreciate the concern. But I have some concern with saying that Airbnbs destroy neighborhoods. I think categorically speaking, that is false. All of my Airbnbs are in neighborhoods. I've got one in Nob Hill, and behind it, I'm building a casita so I can house people long-term. The front is going to remain an Airbnb, and the back is going to be a long-term rental. That'll help facilitate the times when the Airbnb is not rented out. I employ 12 people, managers, cleaners, handymen, people that rely on my Airbnbs to turn, people to come in and to leave. And so the market will dictate if there are too many Airbnbs or not. And it has absolutely done that. We were up to 2,700. Now, I'm not talking about the 600 that have filed, which we still, in the 8 years, 7 years that this has been an ordinance that has passed, the short-term rental ordinance, I forgot the name of it, but we've had well over 2,000 Airbnbs. So as Mr. Barella stated, the ability for the city to make sure that rules are being followed has never happened. And so to add more legislation or ordinance or more restriction, that's going to put more pressure on the city as it is to do something that they haven't been able to do since they passed it in the first place. And so that's one of several issues that I have with this. If I can't grow my business, then I can't employ more people. I can't help more people that are coming into our city. And the last thing I'll say is this, and I'll be very quick. I saw today, the mayor was excited about the Today Show saying that Albuquerque is the number one destination. If we're the number one destination, why are we limiting the ability for someone to have a natural, organic, real New Mexico experience by sending them to places that are, no offense, but commercial?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, councilors.
Councilor Baca, you have one question.
Oh, Mr. Dolinsky, how many Airbnbs do you have? Or how many temporary lodgings?
Sir, I own several properties, many of which are long-term, but depending on the situation, I could have between 3 and 5 at any given time. Right now I have 2. But if the long-term renters leave, then I'll go back to short-term rental until I can find either a medium term, which is 30 to 90 days, or a long-term, which is 6 months or more. So I vary depending on the need.
Depending on the need, right? So you're not a person renting out their home to make a little extra money.
Well, that's how I started, but I love the experience so much. I was like, hey, let me provide this. And I mean, we kind of go above and beyond. Like New Mexico, Pinon Coffee is in every time someone comes in, they've got coffee and they got a map of cool things to do in the city. And it's more than just a hotel experience. They're in a home, they can cook. I tell them where the restaurants are that are neighbor. I mean, I can go on forever and I don't want to waste your time, but yes, right now I have 2 currently. They're all registered, but sometimes they go dark. Like right now, I've got 3 of them that are not because they are long-term renters in there. So.
Right. Thank you. Well, I know that your long-term and medium terms wouldn't be affected. And if we were up to 2,700 and we're at 600, given that this does not create a cap, it sounds like there's a whole lot of room to keep this market organic and fluid, and still provide our tourism. Just like, I was just in New Orleans where they do not allow any more Airbnbs beyond what exists in the French Quarter. And they seem to be doing pretty well. As a matter of fact, I stayed in an Airbnb in the French Quarter. So this is not something that's new or different. This is practice across our country. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So since the director's here, so we have 600 or so that are registered in the city, right? And they pay what's their registration fee?
$75, and then they have their business license fee of $35.
Yeah, the initial application is $120 and then it's $90 per year.
Is there a similar fee for hotels? They have other related fees, I'm sure, but nothing like a hotel. The hotel doesn't pay any kind of registration fees for it.
No.
I guess it's a separate ordinance and everything, so.
Business license.
Gotcha. But we know of about over 2,000 Airbnb homes, right? I mean, homes that are short-term rentals.
The platform market providers, Airbnb and such, they show actively listed anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 at any given time.
Yeah, and what are their other efforts the city's doing to be able to increase the registrations to the, to a higher percentage?
Yes, and Counselor, what the city does is it works with the treasurer's office and the vendor that the treasurer has in order to have letters go out explaining what the laws are and telling people that they need to comply.
Yeah, so far, and how long has it been? Has it been a year? So that's been going on for about a year now. Those letters have been going out and.
Those, and Council Chair and Counselor, those letters have been going out for several years.
Yeah, okay. I agree with everybody who's spoken here tonight, including Mr. Vidal. This is a cap. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's a cap, whether it be by street. I mean, it's a limit, it's a cap on short-term rentals. And, I know, Council Boss talked about, we don't want to give favor to any certain industry. I mean, you want to be fair to the industries like that. But we also don't want to hurt a specific industry. And I do believe this hurts a specific industry. It gives an advantage to another. So, I think a solution is, and if there was Councilor Bach, you mentioned being open to, changes to it. I mean, I'm open to the kind of things that would help the department be able to, get more of these short-term rentals registered. Because I think it's through the registration that we've been able to help educate them and maybe help limit the problem homes like that. It's through the registrations and through the involvement with the treasurer department there to be able to help them solve some of the challenges related to it. I think that's the solution. I don't think the solution is capping it in any way or limiting them in any way. And I also believe that the industry they've been honest brokers in this. I mean, we've heard from the folks that have short-term rentals for many years now. And I don't think Mr. Vidal mentioned that it was a surprise to him that this would come up, because it's probably not a surprise, right? I mean, you've seen that whether it be this city or city councilors or other cities, continue to think that these are the solutions to some of the complaints we get from time to time, regarding these. But I don't think this is the solution. I think that the facts are that, again, these are, small business owners, and whether you own 2 or 3 or 5 or 6, I mean, or just renting out your home to make some extra money. These are legitimate businesses that shouldn't be demonized in any way. I mean, they're legitimate businesses that help people to be able to provide income and provide services, to be honest, for people that come visit our city, that spend money in our city. And we should let them compete, whether it would be with the hotel industry and others in that regard. So as far as an amendment to this or a way to work a bill like this, I think it would have to be in regard to not capping this industry, not capping short-term rentals, but would have to be somewhere in the area of helping our department to be able to increase those registrations and help help the industry just simply do better.
Councilor Tejas.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I do have a few more questions for Director Varela, if he's available.
Yes, I believe he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, I just am curious, do we have any sort of baseline counts or location cluster data of what our total permit STRs are currently?
Council Chair and Counselor, there is mapping available, and there are counts available, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Varela, what sort of clustering analysis have we done? So if we could, or has there been any sort of performance of like a would-be denied simulation, right? Like how many applications would be blocked under the 330-foot restriction?
And no, the department has not conducted any sort of analysis.
Can I jump in?
Councilor Baca.
Thank you. Councilor Tejas, last year when we ran this bill, we did do an analysis. Over half of the STRs, short-term rentals, are within downtown, Old Town, and the university area. As the bill is written, all of those permits existing would be protected. Also, if someone were to build a casita or want to rent out their casita, that is also protected even if there is a distance next to somebody else. All this bill does is within areas that are oversaturated, it would create a little bit more competition or limits as although saying there's a cap is not accurate.
Counselor Tejas.
You, Counselor Baca, Mr. Chair, another question, Mr. Varela, and Counselor Baca, I believe you wrote the bill. So basically we're exempting explicitly owner occupied room rentals, any sort of ADUs, casitas where the owner lives on the property, correct?
Correct. And I'm gonna these numbers aren't up to date, but at the time we wrote this last time, neighborhoods like Barelas and Martinez Town, we're pushing 70 STRs in their neighborhoods each. So just to give you an idea of what that saturation looks like.
Thank you, Counselor Baca. Mr. Chair, just a couple more things. So this bill essentially preserves sort of residential character, right? We're allowing STR activity. We're not, we just don't want our historic areas to turn into sort of mini hotel districts, right?
Correct. And it's not, it's not just business versus business, hotel versus Airbnb. This is business versus people's right to rent a house, people's right to purchase and live in a house, to not be outbid by an out-of-state corporation. So it's really finding a balance between competing interests that leads to a healthy community.
Thank you. Just a comment really, Mr. Chair. I hear the public comments that are coming forward. I understand the idea of free markets. I'm very familiar with Mr. Smith on the free market world. As far as the market will dictate, I think that's generally fair if it assumes fair competitive markets in general. And I just don't think housing is a fair competitive market in general with equal power. Housing is a current scarcity here in Albuquerque. And so high switching costs, the sort of inelastic supply that we currently have in Albuquerque, right, isn't really market will dictate, right? A market can be efficient and still be, difficult for the little guy. So I think, just something to consider when we're reviewing this. If the market were handling it, I think neighbors wouldn't be subsidizing someone else's business model. And so I look forward to reviewing this even more and checking out the data that Director Varela says he has to kind of look more into the issue. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.
I just have a question probably for Director. It's been said several times that the locations are very specific, being Barelas downtown. Maybe the Airbnb chair over here could answer, why do you think that these are the desired locations? They have these large clusters.
And Mr. Champagne, committee chairman, that's where people want to go when they're here for a short period of time.
Having those people there promotes them to explore downtown or Barelas.
And Council Chair, now I'd be speculating quite a bit on their intent, but I do know they're going there because that's where they want to be. It's part of town they want to be in.
And Councilor Bakken can attest to this, that that's where he stayed. New Orleans, you stayed down in the French Quarter, because that's where you wanted to stay.
This is where everybody wants to stay.
Yes, definitely. Director, so how many years has this ordinance, the other ordinance that keeps being referred to, how many years has that been in effect?
And Councilor Champagne, I believe the ordinance is about 6 years old, maybe 7 years old at this point.
So in several years, we've gone through the Treasury Department recognizing going on, I would assume that you go on the Airbnb's website and say, okay, how many are in town, that they're registered in town of Albuquerque. In those years, we sent out letters saying, hey, you're not registered, but yet you're on Airbnb. You need to get registered.
Right, and Council Chair Champagne, yes, and I don't run the treasurer's office,
I'm
but
not
back
gonna
when
go
I was
there.
their attorney and we set all this up, they had a contract with a vendor who was monitoring the marketplace providers in order to determine how many Airbnbs were operating or were advertising actively in Albuquerque. So that is where they got their mapping from and their numbers from.
Is that, Director, is that third party that was mentioned a couple times, that third party was monitoring or kind of tracking these down? Is that the?
And Councilor Champagne, I'm out of the loop on which third party they're using nowadays. But that's possible.
During those times since that began, registration numbers haven't increased.
And Councilor, the registration numbers started out relatively strong at the beginning, but then they hit a certain point where especially once we negotiated the voluntary collection agreements with the platform providers, where we were spending more money to go chase a registration in order just to have somebody register than it was worth, because the problems initially were eliminating the party houses and making sure people were paying their lodger's tax. And they're paying their lodger's tax if they're advertising, because the marketplace providers collect that as a condition of letting them advertise.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Yes, Stephanie, Councilor Tejas, give me one more minute. Let me finish my question. I'll go to you next, man. And I don't know, Sir Vidal, if you can answer this, because I know you're with the Airbnb, but you get updates from from the Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors of how many houses are on the market?
I'm actually a member of CARNM.
Okay.
So I'm not currently a member of GAR, but I can speak to your earlier question about why we have concentrations predominantly along the central corridor. And there's numerous reasons for that. Number one, oftentimes our most affluent neighborhoods, owners don't need to rent their home. And if they don't need to rent their home, they don't. We do see in our less affluent neighborhoods, people renting their home to generate extra money. Also important to note, on all those homes that you do see along the central corridor, many of them are part-time rentals. And the vast majority of them are part-time rentals. We're only dealing with 8%, and I keep trying to throw that number out to put it in perspective. 8% of, right now there's about 1,800 short-term rentals. That's how many we've lost year over year. Rates are down. The average daily rate on short-term rentals is down. Occupancy is down. So the market has been regulating it. We're not seeing travel like we were during the pandemic. So it's been self-regulating to that respect. But there's one other thing that really brings short-term rentals into the central corridor, and that is our healthcare tourism, where we have people coming from all the towns and villages across New Mexico for healthcare, whether it is someone in the family has gone into the hospital or they're here for their own procedures. And the central corridor is near all of the hospitals. That's why we do see a few more in that area, is we have a lot of healthcare tourism where people are coming in for those services.
Sure, can I? One comment?
Can I finish my questioning?
Sure.
Okay. The reason why I ask you about GAR is because I do receive those I never got kicked off the email when I was a realtor. Or mortgage, and I believe the last time, I just wanted to confirm with you if someone else had the information, but the last email I saw a couple weeks ago, there was close to 3,700 houses on the market for sale. And we're sitting here at rentals or in an Airbnb at 2,400, I think, or what was the number I just mentioned? Yeah, 2,400. So we have more houses on the market for sale than we do have Airbnbs that are being tracked. So
One quick comment.
Go ahead.
I would respectfully push back on Mr. Vidal's comment that our affluent neighborhoods don't do it because they don't need the money. Because I've had the affluent neighborhoods in District Two come to me and tell me they don't do them because they have made sure that there are no Airbnbs in their neighborhoods. They don't want them. Moreover, the economics of buying a house and then renting it out as an Airbnb doesn't work out in those neighborhoods.
Counselor Tejas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have another question. Do we, and maybe for Director Varela, do we currently have any sort of other ordinances that limit use on private property and homes that it may affect neighborhoods and neighbors?
And council chair and counselor. Depends on how you look at it. I mean, we have separation requirements for many different types of uses for the city. And this ordinance is patterned on those, simply trying to put in place a separation requirement. So if the separation requirement in and of itself is a limiting factor, then I guess the answer would be yes. Everything that has a separation requirement would be applicable.
Thank you, Mr. Varela. Mr. Chair, Mr. Varela. So I guess my question is, you know, how many other ordinances we have that face limits on use, like that may impact other type of small businesses, right, regarding zoning? For example, maybe we have a mechanic who wants to operate out of their own home. Are they allowed to do that?
And committee chair and counselor, we have exclusionary zoning in our city. And so almost everybody to some degree is limited on what they can do depending on where they are at. A home-based business such as the one you're speaking, you could not run a mechanic shop if it was not zoned appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Varela, Mr. Chair. So we currently already accept sort of distance space limits to protect neighborhood welfare in different ways, correct?
And committee chair, the exclusionary zoning laws could certainly be interpreted to be doing that. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilors, any other questions? Counselor Baca, the close.
I urge your support.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
No.
Counselor Pena,
No.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Counselor Champagne.
No.
That fails on a 2-3 vote.
Move on to agenda item GR 25214. Counselor Baca for Counselor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. B214, approving and authorizing the acceptance of grant funds from the New Mexico State Highway and Transportation NMDOT Department and providing an appropriation to the Parks and Recreation Department fiscal years 2026. I move to pass.
Motions for a due pass and seconded by Counselor Pena. Counselors, any questions or comments? None, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Champagne.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Move on to agenda item H. I'm at R 25217. Counselor Lewis or Counselor Grunt?
Mr. Chair, R 25217 is establishing priorities for the 2027 capital improvements program plan, defining the criteria to be used in rating project proposals, assigning ways to the criteria, allocating amounts for different purposes within the 2027 GEO bond program. I'm going to pass.
Again.
Motion for a due pass and a second by Counselor Pena. I'd say Counselor President Pena. Apologize. Counselors, any questions? None? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Tejas,
Yes.
Mrs. Fontaine.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Then the item I, R 25218, Council Lewis for Council Crowell.
Mr. Chair, R 25-218 is a recommendation response to enactment number 2025-060, establishing a continuing sobriety housing voucher program for individuals experiencing homelessness. Directing the Department of Health, Housing and Homelessness to develop a plan to pilot program and report on outcomes. Move to pass.
Second.
Motion to do pass, second by Council President Pena. And I believe we have an amendment.
We do, Mr. Chair, amendment number 1, item A in your packet there. Beginning on page 2, line 1, replacing section 2 as follows. As you'll see, that language there. Amendment clarifies that a pilot program participant can request to stay on the continuing sobriety housing voucher for up to an additional 6 months while completing the transition into stable housing. And then another amendment to this bill is actually the same amendment, but it's beginning on page 2, line 7, replace the section 3 as follows. You'll see that language, and this is the amendment increases the appropriation for the CSV to reflect the additional 6 months participants may use the voucher.
Second.
Motion is for a acceptance of amendment or a path of amendment, and second by Council President Pena. Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Rebecca.
Yes.
Counselor Lewis.
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Tejas.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Back on the bill as amended. Any questions or comments based on the now amended bill? Seeing none. Motions for a due pass as amended, Madam Clerk.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Counselor Lewis.
Yeah.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Tejas.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
And there being no further business, this FGO meeting is adjourned.